Ethics, corporate social responsibility, known as CSR, and sustainability are issues deeply intertwined when a company is looking at entering or remaining in a foreign market. These issues have become more important than they ever were 40, 30, or even 20 years ago, as company stakeholders are demanding more from global corporate leaders. Often, global leaders are faced with making ethical decisions that can impact the well-being of an organization domestically and globally. Ethics can be defined as the accepted principles of right or wrong that dictates the thoughts, words, and actions of a person, profession, or an organization. Unfortunately, what is considered ethical behavior in one country may be considered unethical in another. As a global leader or manager, you must recognize and be sensitive to these differences while not compromising the organization's values. The most common ethical issues facing those companies and organizations involved in global business are, but not limited to, employment practices, human rights, environmental regulations, and corruption. Let's look at each of these in a little more detail. In many countries, there are unwritten rules regarding certain employment practices. For example, in many countries, women are not permitted to hold certain positions, thus denying them advancement opportunities. In other countries, there is discrimination against certain classes that again denies advancement opportunity for qualified people. One of the biggest challenges for any global HR department is how to ensure that all employees are treated fairly and protected equally, regardless of their location. It's not just the employment actions of the primary organization that is under review. Apple had a subcontractor in China that had inferior work conditions that proved to be an embarrassment to Apple. While no laws were broken, the negative press surrounding those conditions resulted in Apple implementing new oversight procedures to ensure working conditions improved in those overseas subcontracted facilities. For many U.S. companies, the expectation is that all employees are treated with respect and dignity, regardless of geographical location. Not to do so would cause problems for any company or organization, especially given the use of social media to expose such behavior today. Environmental regulations, climate change, have been issues for several decades now. Over the years, there have been numerous environmental disasters that have caused significant loss of life and economic damage, like the BP Gulf of Mexico oil spill, Chernobyl, Love Canal, and the Exxon Valdez, 3 Mile Island, to name a few. These were significant and well documented. However, there are many others that are quietly resolved through litigation or private lawsuits. Companies have a moral obligation to maintain the highest environmental standards, regardless of the level of the country in which they operate. By doing so, they will be viewed in the most positive light. There are many companies who will look for ways to skirt around the issue and use corruption to bend the regulations to their benefit. Corruption has been a problem in almost every society in history, even as far back as biblical times. However, today, many countries have recognized the toll that corruption has on a country's economy. Equally important, many countries want to be known as locations where business is conducted fairly and equally for all. One of the most important regulations ever passed was the U.S. Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. It covers many aspects of corruption, but it is the facilitating payments that is the most visible. Facilitating payments are known as speed money or grease payments and are done to give special treatment to a foreign company by a foreign government official. Ethical obligations of multinational corporations are not always clear-cut. How should corporations handle ethical dilemmas regarding employment, human rights, corruption, and environmental pollution? Pressure from customers and stakeholders to be transparent in ethical decision-making. Let's make it clear. There is no universal worldwide agreement about what constitutes accepted ethical principles. This is the nature of ethical dilemmas. Why do managers behave unethically? There are 6 determinants of ethical or unethical behavior: personal ethics, decision-making processes, organizational culture, unrealistic performance goals, leadership, and societal culture. In reality, the key determinant to ethical behavior is truly the corporate culture and corporate leadership. Many people have personal ethics that would preclude them from undertaking unethical behavior. However, if they work in an organization that condones or promotes unethical behavior, then the employee will have to either comply or resign. How can global leaders and managers make ethical decisions domestically and globally? There are 4 broad perspectives. Hire and promote people with a well-grounded sense of personal ethics. Build an organizational culture that places a high value on ethical behavior. Put decision-making processes in place that require people to consider the ethical dimension of business decisions. The important aspect is for each employee to develop moral courage that will allow them to walk away from a decision that is profitable but unethical, will give the strength to say no to a superior who instructs an employee to pursue actions that are unethical, and will give them the integrity to go public to the media and blow the whistle on persistent unethical behavior in a company. Finally, corporate social responsibility should be a cornerstone of any organization. It is the concept where business people should consider the social consequences of economic actions when making business decisions, and that there should be a presumption in favor of decisions that have both good economic and social consequences.